Hi, everybody. My name is Qiao Wu. I'm from IPPAM 20.
And my name is Donald from Indonesia, the IPPAM 1.
So I guess it's a historic moment, huh? It's IPPAM 1 and IPPAM 20. So on behalf of my cohort, I have several questions for you. So first of all, it's a personal one. So we know last weekend, we had a football game against Utah. So do you know the result?
Well, fortunately, I was there, and with some colleagues, we were there. And we won 28-27, something like that, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. But, you know, Chow, when we were there, when we were here in 1999, the first batch, we have the opportunity to see the big match, the derby with the UCLA, with very different atmosphere. But unfortunately, we lost at that time.
Okay, so the second question would be, what is your sweetest memory here in IPPAM?
Wow. Well, I think everything is nice. Yeah. Although we came here 19 years ago, the student from Indonesia, with big pressure because we have to start the program. At the same time, we still have the English course. And the program is only for 14 months at the time. So but everything is nice, yeah. It's sweet memories, yeah. And if I may say that the Indonesian alumni, the first batch, is an inseparable part of the genesis of the IPPAM program.
So the last question, how has everything been since you and your cohort graduate?
Wow. Yeah, I think everybody's doing good. There are lots of the IPPAM alumni from the batch 1. We have there, my colleagues, DG of Communicable Diseases, so Minister of Health, Subu, and others are important people that play key roles in the government and private sectors. So I think we are happy to be here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And to begin today's ceremony, let's do a little bit interaction now. So we too will say IPPAM, and please all of you say 5 times, okay? So let's do it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. IPPAM. 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 Woo. Thank you so much. So now let's welcome today's ceremony master, Paria, to come here.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? Great. Well, welcome to the 20th anniversary of International Public Policy and Management Program at USC Price School of Public Policy. Most of you know me here. My name is Paria Terani. Most of you know me, and most of you cannot get my name right, but it's okay. Welcome, keynote speakers, Ms. Bridgett Luther, Mr. Terry Tamminen. Welcome, Dean Knott. Welcome, IPPAM and USC faculty and staff. Welcome, IPPAM alumni and current students and IPPAM management. All of you, welcome to today's ceremony. I am IPPAM 16. I am IPPAM 16, turned TA, turned IPPAM staff, turned IPPAM alumnus. And I also happen to work currently with our keynote speaker today, one of our keynote speakers, Ms. Bridgett Luther. And also so many different guests that we have today from amazing nonprofits. So in a way, I'm like cockroaches and Cher. No matter how many times you try to get rid of me, I know my way back, and I will come back. Well, today we're here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of IPPAM program. And I would like to introduce the founder of IPPAM program and the director of IPPAM program, Miss Joyce Mann, Dr. Joyce Mann. She's our fairy godmother. We love her dearly. She's always there for us. No matter what we need, she's always there. And with that, Dr. Joyce Mann.
Fairy, I have to say you're much more welcome here than a cockroach is. So, so you may be as enduring, but we warmly welcome you back each time you come. I would like to thank all of you for coming here to support the IPPAM program and to welcome our alumni back home to their academic home. It is so great that they can get such a warm and inviting embrace on their return here to USC. So thank you so much for coming. We have more than 55 alumni participating in our 3 days of alumni reunion events from 7 different countries. We met this morning, and to see the excitement on their faces for being back on campus. And also, so many of them were so happy to see how the campus is still so beautiful as it was when they were here 2 decades ago. They're just so proud to be here. And so proud to be affiliated with the school, the Price School of Public Policy. And for the leadership of that school, we have to thank our dean, Jack Knott. Now, many of you saw him presiding over the cake cutting, but I'd like to give a little more formal introduction of him. He says I can skip it, but he is a leading scholar in the field of political institutions, public policy, public management, and healthcare policy. And he has challenged us over the years to grow, to innovate, and to strengthen the comparative aspect of our program. So not only has his efforts resulted in the rising stature of the school, but he has been such a strong and huge supporter of the IPPAM program. And I think what most endears him to us is that he is an incredibly strong advocate of students. And so, during the past year, 2 years, there's been, civil strife issues here in the U.S., political strife issues. He has convened forums with students to give them a chance to give voice to some of their thoughts, some of their concerns, and he's heard them, and he has really enlisted students to play a leading role in sort of focusing the agenda of the school. And so we are most appreciative of that, and I'd like to welcome Dean Knott to the stage.
That's the kind of introduction I actually prefer than a litany of accomplishments through my resume. I do really care a lot about students, and I care about IPPAM students in particular. And one of the great things that I've experienced in my deanship is having the privilege to visit various countries where we have IPPAM alumni, and they always welcome me with open arms. I often get an absolutely spectacular dinner as well. And even recently at the anniversary of the USC Alumni Association in Hong Kong, there were several IPPAM people there, and in Tokyo as well. So I've gotten, even within the last 2 weeks, to experience that warmth and support from IPPAM alumni in Asia in this case. So I want to thank and welcome everyone here. I'm so pleased to preside over the opening panel of IPPAM's 3-day celebration of this really important degree program. The International Public Policy and Management program at Price is unique and distinct, and I think really different than almost any program in international relations schools or other schools around the country. And that's really another reason to celebrate the really unique, special character of IPPAM. IPPAM has for these past 20 years offered international students and mid-career professionals from around the world the opportunity to expand their knowledge across sectors and exchange expertise in a global setting right here in Los Angeles. If President Nikias were here today, and you all know President Nikias is Greek, and likes to look to the ancients, he would no doubt point to Thucydides, a Greek historian, as the father of political science. But as it turns out, the field of public administration, I've learned, didn't originate in Greece. It originated in China. And Xinbu Ha, a Chinese bureaucrat, is widely credited with writing the first book about public administration. And through history, the practice and the study of public administration has continued to grow and evolve. So in the 18th century, the King of Prussia created professorships at universities, specifically to teach a new economic theory that advocated for a strong public administration in government. Fast forward to 1929, a very important year in USC's history and our history, when the USC School of Citizenship and Public Administration was founded. It was only one of 2 schools of public administration in the United States and one of the pioneering schools at USC. And as you know, this was the original founding school that today is now the Price School. So in 2019, the Price School is going to be 90 years old. So we're going to have another birthday celebration at that time. And while it would be almost 70 years before IPPAM was established, already back in 1930, USC ranked 3rd in the United States in the number of international students, with about 10% of its student body coming from outside the U.S. And so both USC and the Price School have a long history of international involvement. We have always opened our doors to students from around the globe, and it has long been our mission to improve the quality of life for people in their communities, not only here, but abroad as well. The challenge that we tackle as scholars, practitioners, and global citizens include governance, effective public and nonprofit management, social policy, sustainability, healthcare, immigration, infrastructure, urban development, affordable housing, and other complex issues that are faced not only here in the United States, but in almost every country in the world. They are global challenges, and they need to be met with passionate, resourceful, smart, and well-trained scholars and practitioners, just like our IPPAM graduates. That's why IPPAM is so important to Price, and why we have so much to celebrate. Because it's not only what you learn here, but it's what you do with that knowledge in many countries around the world that have a real impact on solving social and economic problems in the countries where you reside. And if you count those ripple impacts, it's amazing what this program has produced over the last 20 years. So rather than focusing primarily on U.S. governance and policy issues, as many universities do, the IPPAM curriculum approaches issues of relevance in a comparative international setting. And IPPAM is also unique in providing executive education and civil service training programs for students and public servants, really from around the globe. And I've had the privilege of welcoming and participating in many of these executive education programs, and you'd be impressed with the number of senior officials out of the public and private sector that have come here and have received valuable education and training from the IPPAM staff and faculty. Over 20 years, IPPAM has trained more than 750 graduates from more than 35 countries around the globe who work in high levels in all sectors and serve as government officials, public and nonprofit managers, policy specialists, or community leaders. IPPAM is committed to advancing USC's global mission. Our alumni work for global organizations such as IBM, the World Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the World Health Organization, and demonstrate the professional training and capacity that IPPAM has contributed worldwide. Many IPPAM grads serve in leading positions in their home country governments, as well as in the private sector. And last month, I was in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Shanghai, where I met a number of wonderful IPPAM students, as I mentioned earlier. And they are really, some of them, the vanguard of business enterprises in China. Jenny Lau. I know Jenny is here. I said hello to her. Where is Jenny? Hi, Jenny. Jenny Lau, President and CEO of Sino Jet, is here. We met in Hong Kong just recently. Thank you so much for coming. Ben Wang, I met Ben. Where's Ben? Is Ben here? There he is. Hi, Ben. So I met his father and mother in Shanghai just not that long ago. Ben said to me, you know, I wish I could have dinner with my parents as much as you do. But we're all what I'm hoping is in the future that all of us could get together and have dinner together, because we had a wonderful time with your parents just a couple of weeks ago. And Dixon Zhang, IPPAM, I don't know if it's 4 or 3, President and CEO of Junbao Investing Incorporated. We had dinner with him as well just recently, and I think he's actually going to be here on Wednesday to visit us as well. So these are just some of the really incredible entrepreneurial business leaders who are graduates of the IPPAM program. And also with us today are Kazuo Fueta from Japan's National Institute of Advanced Science and Technology. Is he here? There he is. Stand up. Thank you for coming. And Mohammed Suba, Director General of Disease Control and Environmental Health at the Ministry of Health in the Republic of Indonesia. Where is he here? Yes. Thank you for coming. And I'm also pleased that we have a number of alums from Indonesia also with us. As you know, Don Pardede is here, Senior Advisor to Indonesia's Minister of Health and Health Economics. And I think 5 to 7 members of IPPAM 1, which is 7, which is extremely impressive. So could you give all these people a wonderful round of applause? So, just the fact that you are here says so much about the importance of this program to you and your life, and the importance to us of encouraging you to come and holding this event. Collegiality and cultural exchange are hallmarks of the IPPAM experience. I'll never forget the Chinese New Year where my wife, Cherry, went away. I thought she was just going to use the ladies' room. And then after 15 minutes, I got worried about her. And then she came back in dressed up as a Chinese princess. And we had little red cards to hand out to everybody to celebrate Chinese New Year. So we also personally have had the opportunity to participate in the incredible cross-cultural exchange that you get to experience here while you're part of IPPAM. And this not only includes Chinese New Year, but of course, turkey and pumpkin pie during American Thanksgiving. So we're not forgetting the American cultural traditions either. IPPAM's commitment to fostering intercultural understanding and international collaboration is expressed not only through the study of policy and management issues, but through these kinds of intercultural activities and cohort building. The approach has resulted in an amazingly strong network of graduates from all over the world who continue to be engaged with the Price School and with each other and have become long-time resources throughout their career. This is something that I cannot emphasize more. When I travel and when I see the interconnections among IPPAM grads and their dedication to their work and doing good in the community and in their countries, and I see how they work together with each other and stay connected to USC, it is an amazing group. And so I salute all of you. Thank you for coming and really appreciate all you do for this school and all you do for the countries in which you live. So thank you very, very much. And I'd like to invite Joyce back. Now, I just wanted to say, Joyce has been a fantastic leader of this program, and I really have appreciated. She not only, is a professional who helps design the curriculum and get the faculty, but she has a warm heart and a caring for everybody that's really special and unique. And she works incredibly well with Dr. Joanna Yu. Joanna, could you stand as well? Could we give these two ladies a real wonderful round of applause?
Thank you, Dean Knott. Thank you, Dean Knott. I think you all could hear the appreciation and support he has of our program. I hope all of you can indulge me for just a little bit. I want to think back and reflect on the beginning of IPPAM. IPPAM began 20 years ago as a program to strengthen the planning, management, and policy skills of government officials from countries that were, their economies were growing, and they finally had sufficient, maybe not sufficient, but more resources to devote towards social programs like healthcare and education, programs to build the infrastructure in their countries. And so Professor Glenn Melnick, who is the founder of IPPAM, had the vision to create a program that would serve the needs of international government officials, that would streamline maybe some of the U.S. content and bring in instead the policy issues, the data, and the institutions from their countries so that they could better learn how to adapt what they are taught in the classroom and implement it back in their home countries. And it was his vision, really, that established the program. He actually left his tenured position at UCLA to come here to begin this program. So for that, we have a debt of gratitude. And the other aspect of our program, Donald Pardede alluded to it, the central role of Indonesia. Because yes, we started IPPAM. The first class had 33 students. Of those 33, 27 were Indonesian government officials. We had 4 people. Yes, it was amazing. It was amazing. We had 4 Ministry of Health officials from China, 1 person from Japan, 1 person from India. That rounded out the first class. But if you think back 20 years ago, Asia was in the midst of a huge financial crisis, one that spread worldwide. And so we were a little bit nervous about whether we could actually launch this program, particularly with our focus on Indonesia, because just a few months before the start of the program, their president of 35 years was forced or was gently persuaded to step down. And so they were undergoing a huge political shift, and these were government officials. We were worried that they wouldn't be able to come given what their country was going through, but they were very courageous. They had a pioneering spirit, and they said, this now is more important than ever to retool our skills and to advance our thinking. And so they took the plunge. They came here at a time when their currency was devalued and they were worried about their families, but they came here to study. And out of the fruits of their labor, over the past 3 years, as Indonesia has been designing its national health insurance program, the people playing a key role in that program, in the design and implementation, are IPPAM alumni, along with our colleague, Prastuti Sawando, who served on the National Health Insurance Board. And so, we now see that their sacrifices were well worth that effort. And since their time here, we have grown, we have diversified. And each year we admit 40 to 45 students coming from anywhere from 13 to 15 countries each year. So we've expanded now. We have representation from the Middle East. This year we have a student from Qatar and Saudi Arabia. In some years we have students from UAE. Once in a while we get a student from Latin America. Our penetration rate there is still a little bit low, so we're looking for Latin America American students, if any of you have contacts. But, you know, it was what we learned from our early cohorts that allowed us to strengthen the program and make it what it is today. I would now like to introduce our two keynote speakers. We are very fortunate to have, it's going to take me a minute here, so you don't have to quite get up yet. We're very fortunate to have two such visionary leaders who are exemplary in not only being able to imagine a better future, but in being able to create the organizations and to gather the people and the resources to make their vision a reality. So we couldn't think of two better people to come here and address the alumni and the faculty and staff of the school. Speaking first is Bridgett Luther. Bridgett was the director of the Department of Conservation under then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when she left her government post, she went on to work with a nonprofit, Cradle to Cradle Product Innovation Institute. And what they do is they work with manufacturers of consumer products to help them invigorate, to help them green their technology, to make their production processes more environmentally friendly. And she's a busy person. This year, she is launching Passport to Good, which is a new platform based on sort of gaming or incorporating gaming technology to bring together people who are interested in the same kinds of social issues and to facilitate and deepen their connections. They have built in an incentive structure. They have built in tools to help people see the impact of their actions. And so you'll see their billboard over there. I encourage you to Google it. They're working with many nonprofits to do this. And then following Bridgett, we have Terry Tamminen. Terry was the secretary of the Environmental Protection Agency under then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. So the two know that it's no coincidence that they're both here at the same time. They're good friends. Terry is now the CEO of the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, a foundation that is devoted to protecting wildlife and preserving the ecosystems in which the wildlife live. And they have a number of different initiatives within the foundation addressing climate change, ocean conservation, and several other areas. Ocean conservation is particularly near and dear to Terry's heart. From his early years working in his family fishery business in his native Australia to maybe 3 or 4 decades ago when he established Santa Monica Bay Keeper, which has now blossomed into LA Baykeeper? Waterkeeper. Okay. And he is really a Renaissance man. Because not only has he done these things, he has been a sheep farmer, he's been involved in business, he's an entrepreneur, he has founded a number of different organizations in these fields. And so he kind of brings together all these different interests and is now marshaling them to advance the work of the DiCaprio Foundation. So please join me in welcoming both of them to USC.
Wow. Congratulations, everybody, for being part of such a remarkable organization. You students, the faculty, the alumni, 20 years of making change and putting it out to the world. You must just feel amazing. I feel excited just to be here and know all of you. My sister was a Trojan graduate, so it's a little bit of family ties there. And of course, my dad had the bumper sticker that said, "My daughter and my money all go to USC." Right? And being down here reminds me of when I first moved to California. And some of you will hear a little bit of an accent. That's from North Carolina. And I was at a talk. There was an environmental guy that was leaving, and everybody's all excited. And this woman got up. She said, I just moved here from the South, and I gave Jerry my card, and I got on by the environmental issues. And I was like, oh, man, from the South. Let's see. Alabama, maybe South Carolina. So I went running up to her after the talk because I didn't know anybody, and, you know, another Southerner. So, Claire, where are you from? In the South. I'm from Laguna Beach. So if you live in California and you say you're from the South, you're not from Mississippi or Alabama. You're from Laguna Beach. So that was my big introduction to California. Today I want to talk to you about your engagement, your next steps, your passion, your role in the world of sustainability. The problem we're talking about is big and can be depressing. The world's heating up at a much faster rate than any of us thought. The powerlessness that we feel, and sometimes depression, can really start to get you down. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit of hopeful thoughts today and tell you a little bit about my experience and where I am and how I got here. First, it's okay to start small. You could even start in your own neighborhood like I did. I got started when my kids got kicked off their ball field. Where they'd been playing ball for 40 years suddenly was going to be a great apartment complex. And I was pissed. I didn't know where my kids were going to play ball next year. But right across the street was an empty field. And through organizing the community, some teamwork, we were able to create fields for baseball and soccer. You see, really, starting a better world can start at home. Think about what you might do about the problems on your own street, in your own neighborhood, and how you can make a difference. So parks and open space kind of became the launch pad for my career. People need parks. Water quality has to be saved. Animals need habitat. What does that look like? Well, here's the good news. It also takes money. So I learned how to raise some money. And the first thing I did was I ran a bond campaign. So we figured out how to convince the community that they were going to tax themselves so they could have great parks and open space in their community. On the other side of town, there was another town, and they put a 25-cent fee on their water bill. How many people know what their water bill is? Do you think you would have even noticed a 25-cent increase? No. But through both of those measures, we raised over $200 million to create parks and open space in my community in North Carolina. So I was super excited. I had the money. I could do my job. And it actually led to the job with the National Land Conservation Organization, which brought me to California. Now, when I moved to California and I was interviewing for jobs, everyone said, how'd you get here? And I said, oh, midlife course correction. But really, it was all about following my heart. There's something to be said about following your heart. And through that, I was able to get involved with the campaign of our soon-to-be governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And who knew that Governor Schwarzenegger would end up becoming the environmental hero of our generation? I'm so proud to be here with Terry Tamminen, the architect of his environmental platform. And when Terry and I met, I was the lone Republican, giving him impact on his environmental action plan. And as it turned out, he needed Republican women to come up and help him. And that is how I got my job. I also knew a little bit about recycling and a few other things. But by following my heart, I ended up in Sacramento. And I suddenly realized I was in charge of the world's largest recycling program. And we are trying to collect over 24 billion containers in California every year. That is a lot of bottles and cans. And do you know that the recycling program started because people didn't want to see litter on the side of the road? A lot of people don't even know that the California recycling program is called California Beverage Container Recycling and Litter Reduction Act. Because litter was something that people could see, and they could see that it needed a solution. I was just learning about a guy named Richard Thaler. Richard is the father of nudge theory, and he's just been awarded the Nobel Prize for Economics. The concept is a relatively subtle policy shift that encourages people to make decisions that help their broader self-interest. It's not about penalizing people financially if they don't act in a certain way, but it's about making it easier for them to make certain decisions. And lo and behold, we actually did that to increase the beverage container recycling. Have you ever looked at your grocery bill? There's a charge you pay. It's called the California Refund Value, the CRV. If you buy a soda or a bottle of water, you're paying a CRV. And when I started to work for the government, it was 4 cents. And the recycling rate was 62%. So we were collecting 62% of those 24 billion containers. But then we went and we raised it to a nickel. And overnight, the largest recycling program in the world went to 80%, and we really pumped it up. By giving an empty bottle some value, somehow the nickel was a bigger incentive than the 4 cents, and we were able to get more people engaged in recycling. Waste is just one of the many problems I'm sure lots of us think about all the time. But you can just look to California for some great ideas. And if anybody wants to talk about recycling, I'm all there. How are we going to live on this planet in peace and harmony with clean air, clean water, and enough for everyone is a really serious and important matter. And honestly, we've done a lot of the easy work, changing light bulbs, creating recycling programs, investing in solar energy. But now it's people like you that really have to take it to the next level. When I started on my journey to sustainability, I thought, oh my gosh, before this is all over, I'm going to be living in a cave, planting my own food, never driving anywhere, because I couldn't figure out how to get my footprint small enough to really make a difference. Then I heard the hopeful message of Cradle to Cradle and it was all about creating abundance. I imagine that some of you have heard about Cradle to Cradle because it's actually the platform for everything they're talking about on the circular economy. And it's been pushed out by both the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. At its core, it's really a message of abundance. We can live in this world together and have the stuff we want if we can design right, if we can make sure that things just keep going around. So just imagine for a minute that everything in this room starts going around. The carpet, the drapes, the chairs all have a second life and they become something amazing. And everything that goes around is made with safe materials and made with solar and renewable energy, with clean water, and everybody that's doing it gets paid a fair wage. That is why I created the Cradle to Cradle certification program to help those kinds of ideas scale around the world. And there's this cool business opportunity. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. Some country or region is going to take this on, and they're going to figure out how to get this stuff back and into circulation and not putting it into landfills. And McKinsey has estimated it's about a $700 billion proposition. So like the investment California made 20 years ago on collecting bottles and cans, I think there's a really wonderful opportunity to create products and jobs for the future. California has led a lot of environmental initiatives, and I'm proud to be living here and be a part of them. A few years back, my previous organization saved the land around the Hollywood sign. And you just wouldn't believe the kind of calls they were getting. Calls from Rome, the Pope, the Vatican, Australia, Russia. Oh my God, please, the Hollywood sign is not coming down. But what I realized as they were getting all these calls is that we export two really valuable ideas, represented by two iconic symbols. We export the idea of liberty and freedom, represented by the Statue of Liberty. And we export our culture, represented by the Hollywood sign. And part of that culture is the idea of opportunity and optimism. And because you've been here, you know this and you feel this, and you can take these ideas back with you. The idea that we can do anything. You can lead your neighborhoods and your countries. You know, it's a lot easier to bring people together today than it was back when I was trying to build a park in my old neighborhood in North Carolina. And I think about how President Obama got started and his community organizing and what he did and how that sort of started his platform. You know what he did? He got toxic building materials out of his local apartment, and he started an after-school program. And he said, nothing can stand in the way of millions of voices calling for change. And that's what I think has to happen now. I can't do this alone. So my next step to creating a better world, I founded a way to engage everyone in good causes. and their solutions. The problems today are bigger than the lack of a ball field. But the combined organizing ability, the power of following your heart, and I think we can use everything that we've learned to make a difference. And that's why I've started Passport to Good. We've created an app where you can get your friends excited about things, and it's a game. Okay, I won't let everybody say, okay, you're not silently playing Farmville on your phone while I'm talking, are you? Or World of Warcraft, or Angry Birds. And imagine if people were doing that in a way that really made a difference. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people around the world engaged in the idea of making a difference on hunger, social injustice, climate change, sustainable agriculture, women's rights, health of the oceans, clean drinking water. All those are really big problems, and we're going to need a lot of people. Some of our partners are here with us today, Peer Spring and Exceptional Minds, and they've signed on, and we need more partners. We need ideas. We need help. We need cool students like all of you, and former students like Perrier, who's helping us already. Your engagement, your next steps, your passion, your role in the world of sustainability starts right now. So I'm going to ask each of you to text 88202. And if you can't remember it, come up to me later and get my card, and I'll reach out to all of you. I've got dozens. And it's going to be a big lift. We don't have to wait for tomorrow. We can start today. And again, as President Obama said, nothing can stand in the way of millions of people calling for change. Thank you. Now I'm going to bring up my friend Terry. I'm so excited to have him here, and you guys are in for a treat. Welcome, Terry.
She's a hard act to follow. I don't know if I can do this. First of all, I want to thank the entire team here at USC for hosting us and for being such a great school. And I also want to thank all of these great workers here that have been serving our lunch. Let's give them a great big round of applause. And Joyce, thank you for the kind introduction. You know, in the American Civil War, the Times of London had a correspondent in New York. And he would send back these messages about what was going on in the amazing, lurid Civil War, and nobody could believe it back in London, but they were afraid not to publish it because who knows, it might actually be right. So they went ahead and they published all these stories from the American Civil War under the banner, important if true. And so it is with my biography, but thank you, Joyce. And I want to thank Dean Knott, who's been such a great friend of so many of the wonderful programs here, and particularly the Schwarzenegger Public Policy Institute, also at the Price School here, named after an obscure former California governor that you probably never heard of. But actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger loves Jack Knott. He's been such a great partner here and helped us so much to integrate with the faculty and the students and the staff and everyone here at USC. And as you can tell, the way that Arnold returned the favor to Dean Knott, if you just look at his biceps and his pecs and everything, you can tell they've been working out together. So, well, maybe not. Let me begin my remarks to you today in an odd way. I want to give you a little bit of insight from an Australian tourist website. Since most of you are very international, this is an international introduction here. Now, these are real questions. I'm just going to mention a couple of them that potential tourists to Australia asked of this website. And they were so, well, you'll judge for yourself what they were, but they were so unusual that the purveyors of the website could only give humorous answers. So here's one question. I have never seen it rain in Australia on TV. How do the plants grow? Answer, we import the plants fully grown and then just sit around and watch them die. Can you give me some information about hippopotamus racing in Australia? It's a real question. Answer, Africa is the big triangle-shaped continent south of Europe. Australia is the big island in the middle of the Pacific, which does not have... Oh, forget it. Sure, the hippo racing is every Tuesday night in King's Cross. Come naked. And my favorite from this website, which direction is north in Australia? And the answer was, face south, turn 180 degrees, and then contact us when you get here and we'll give you the rest of the directions. Now, I mention these questions because while they're funny, they exemplify the problem we face as we try to deal with the challenges of building a more sustainable world for the future. Too many people just don't understand the world we live in today. And I believe that that is really the root of all of our sustainability challenges, because it leads people to operate in silos, apart from each other, apart from other nations and other cultures, instead of understanding that we are fundamentally and inextricably connected to every other living thing on Earth. And that's why I was very inspired and honored to accept the invitation to be with you today, because the students, the faculty, the advisors, everyone of the IPPAM program work together across disciplines, across cultures, across countries, and most importantly, across the fields that are the most important of our time. Sectors that, when taken together, actually form the recipe, I think, for solving the world's most critical issues, especially climate change. Now, think about it. Your fields of study include environment and energy. Well, there's an obvious connection there. Public health. The growing impacts of climate change to public health seem to motivate people to take action more swiftly than just talking about rising seas or disappearing polar bears. Social justice. Things like refineries and coal-burning power plants always impact people of low income and color disproportionately. Education. Think about the delay in addressing climate change, especially here in the United States, that's resulted from fake science funded by climate denial industry and funders, which can only be fixed by improving the environmental literacy on these issues. Transportation and urban infrastructure, well sustainably designed and built, are the keys to solving climate change and adapting to the inevitable impacts that we're already facing, many of which we've seen at unprecedented levels this year. International development addresses the need for all of us to work together, as, for example, the Paris Climate Change Agreement of 2015 tried to do in terms of climate change. The nonprofit management and social innovation sector of IPPAM essentially is also the kinds of things that we do at the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation. And so standing here before you as the CEO of that foundation and as the co-founder of the R20 Regions of Climate Action, I'm living proof of the relevance of that nonprofit management and social innovation sector. And Leonardo DiCaprio is the living proof and importance of your communications and media sector for engaging the public and policymakers to understand the problem and the solutions. Now, former U.S. Vice President Dan Quayle said, "It isn't pollution that's harming the environment, it's the impurities in our air and water that's doing it." Yep, he actually said that. But Shakespeare was more poetic in saying that there is a tide in the affairs of men which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune, but omitted, and all of life's voyage is bound in shallows, in miseries and regrets. And I pose to you that we are afloat upon such a sea at this moment, and it is only our generation, only the people in this room and those like you, that can see this tide and shape our future before it shapes us. And that's just what connected, collaborative people like you can accomplish and are accomplishing. And here's the good news. As many of you go out into careers in public service, academia, business, or community work, we can address climate change and our other sustainability challenges on planet Earth by promising the most economic and job-creating opportunities of the future. Let me just give you one example from work that I did with the R20 Regions of Climate Action, the nonprofit that Governor Schwarzenegger, the UN, and others founded when we left state government in Brazil, where the NGO worked with states and provinces and city governments to design and implement climate solutions, starting with a $500 million special purpose finance vehicle so cities could borrow the money to replace old, inefficient streetlights, replace them with LEDs that saved over 60% of the energy and therefore reduced 60% of the greenhouse gas production and other pollution from energy production. The loans are repaid in 3 to 5 years from the energy and maintenance savings for products that last 10 to 15 years, so the taxpayer gets a great deal, and so does the investor, and of course, so does the environment. And energy efficiency retrofits like that in buildings, of course, make an enormous difference. Something that Leonardo DiCaprio and I tried to explain to Donald Trump right after the election. Before the inauguration, we went to visit him and tried to explain that perhaps he and some of his supporters were not fans of climate change policy per se, but they certainly could understand energy efficiency, saving money, things that paid for itself. And as a real estate developer, he actually said, yes, he could appreciate the example of the Empire State Building in his hometown of New York, where they retrofit lights and windows and just added some insulation to the walls, and they saved 40% of their energy as a result and paid it back in 3 years. And the Sears Tower in Chicago, the Willis Tower as it's now called, one of the highest buildings in North America, they did the same thing, but they also upgraded their heating and air conditioning and their elevator motors, and they added some wind turbines to the roof, and they saved 80%, 80% of the energy that that building had been using. Now, think about that as more electric cars come into our lives and are looking for places to charge without upgrading the grid. Think how much more charging capacity you could install by using all that saved energy in those kinds of buildings. Well, these examples show why countries have signed on to things like the Paris Climate Agreement, which, as you know, was reached about 18 months ago at COP21, because they're scared about climate change, but also because they know that these solutions are cheaper than business as usual and far more reliable in the long term. Consider, for example, that more sunlight falls on the Earth every hour than is needed to power all human energy needs for a year. And if you add to this the potential of biomass, geothermal, tidal power, wind, and other renewables, it's clear that there's enough clean, renewable, reliable energy resources if we deploy the technology to use them. So how do we do that? As policymakers, as cross-sectoral advocates and people who work around the world? Well, I'll give you another California example. When Governor Schwarzenegger passed the Million Solar Roofs initiative, we predicted that front-loading some subsidies would stimulate mass production of the panels and the parts, and then that would bring down the cost, so that in later years we could lower the subsidies and even eliminate them, but the bills, the cost of the installations would still drop. Well, that's exactly what happened. We passed that law in 2007. The price of solar modules dropped from over $4 a watt then to just under $1 a watt today, and the global installed capacity went from 4.5 gigawatts back then to over 200 gigawatts today. And that represents a lot of jobs on American rooftops that can't be exported to another country. And it also represents the coordination of good policy, technology, and finance to create something of great value to our state and the world. So yes, like Bridgett, I'm optimistic that we can solve our environmental problems and build a stronger economy in the future. And in the alignment of values, we can overcome unnecessary disagreements about our very existence on this planet. And I want to just take a moment to give a shout out to my good friend Bridgett. Yes, give her a round of applause. When we first met, this was at a time when Republicans, many Republicans, not all, but many, had strayed from the ideas of Teddy Roosevelt and other visionaries who actually were great environmentalists. And so I was having a tough time finding not just women Republicans that were interested in the environment, but kind of any of them to help serve in the Schwarzenegger administration. And she came up and she said, I work with a nonprofit called Republicans for Environmental Protection. And I said, what's that? And fortunately, she got me tied into a great group of people that ended up supporting a lot of our policies and showing these examples I mentioned to you, that what's good for the economy is good for the environment and vice versa. But she also was way too humble. She didn't just raise the price of a bottle by a penny and then suddenly everything happened after that. Bridgett is one of those unique people who can turn straw into gold. And she does it with a smile in high heels while dancing backwards. So give her another great big round of applause. because all of you should be taking a page out of her playbook. But remember, the planet doesn't care if we're here. 98% of all the plant and animal species ever to exist on Earth came and disappeared before the arrival of industrial humans. The planet will do fine without us. We're not trying to save the planet. We're trying to save ourselves and our quality of life on this planet. So the program that you are a part of here at USC gives me hope, because I know that you will all be the first to say, I will work across barriers of culture, sector, politics to accomplish a better future than any of us can achieve by operating alone. I know that you will work here, your work here shows that you will be the first to say, success will not only be measured by the number on the bottom of a balance sheet, but by the balance of clean air and clean water and healthy landscapes that I bequeath to my children. And your work here will answer the call to action that rang out across the world decades ago when a president of these United States challenged us to ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, I'm here to tell you that the studies and the careers you embark on through the IPPAM program are the most important things that you can do for your country and for the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Dean Knott, Ms. Bridgett Luther, and Mr. Terry Tamminen. And now I would like to introduce another IPPAM leader. She's amazing and we love her. She's one of the toughest women we've met. She is the director of the executive learning at IPPAM, Dr. Joanna Yu.
Hi, Dean Knott, and our two keynote speakers. I really enjoy your talk. I know Planet actually like a family. We should taking care of them very well. It's not only the leader, everyone supposed to have that responsibility. So today, I'm here quite excited because we prepared this anniversary celebration since last year. It's not easy, honestly, because our routine job is very heavy, but we set up this goal. We said we have to do it. Okay, the goal is we set up October this year, target 50 alumni from all over the world. Leanne dropped a note and he said, why not? We just, have a book. This is a great idea, but right away, people say, book? These days, anyone read books? Nobody read books. Another person say, printing a book? That's out of date. But to me, I realized, since Joyce and myself, we start very beginning. It's the time for us to give some gift to IPPAM this program. We know what's going on. We're walking historian. So we decided to do it. The first thing in my mind, what is the theme of this book? And who is going to write it? So I remember last December, I said actually Jenny Lau's car. It's a luxury car with a driver. I asked Jenny. I said, Jenny, what do you think? I tried to put in the public. They're all alumni, give idea. What do you think? This young lady, right away, she said, Joanna, how about we do journey of transformation? She said, before coming to IPPAM and after IPPAM, and these years, we are different. You think this is a good one? Right away, I know this is the one, transformation. Today, that's the book we'll prepare for everyone. Another easy, honestly, we total have 42 testimonies from our alumni from 15 different countries. And believe it or not, from IPPAM 1 to IPPAM 17, every year we got one. We did not really coordinate like this way because we really don't know who will write it. But I really feel God is watching us, so we did not miss any year. Today we have some people helping me, like Monto from Indonesia, like Vince Okada from Japan, and Kazu from Japan, and we have China, Frankie He, and Kaiser Huang. Wow, everyone push so hard. So we gather this, and we have 13, essays from our faculty and the staff. But put everything in this book, that's another challenge. We don't have a budget to do it. So I asked one person. This person very special to me. She is IPPAM 17. She's supposed graduated 2 years ago, but for some reason she did not. She came back. And this is the last semester she's supposed to finish it. So I asked her, I said, Alice, would you please be in charge? She, gladly took this position. Why I want to do that? Because I realized this lady has very special talent. She was a high school teacher. 2 years, 3 years ago when she was with us, she's able to grab the right person in the team. So she really developed her skill. We have so many, from engineering school, IPPAM 19 Charlie, IPPAM 20 Chow, and from architecture school, from, Kelly Lee school friends, everyone worked together. And today we got this book. I'm so proud. And later on, everyone will get one. That's the gift we prepare for everyone today. But as a family, we know we always have some happy things. We heard people got a good job, married, have a kid, and got promotion. At the same time, we do have some sad things. For example, 2004, tsunami hit Indonesia. IPPAM 5, Siti Sofara. She passed away with her husband and one baby, actually born in IPPAM. But she had 2 kids survived. So IPPAM decided to support these 2 kids. We just do the fundraising every year. So we are able to send these 2 kids to the boarding school, all the way from elementary to the high school. So I know the older one now already got her medical doctor's degree, father, her mom's staff, the son also in the college. This is the first scholarship we established in IPPAM. The second one, actually, almost 3 years ago, my late husband, Harold Craig, he passed away in his sleep. I was so surprised. Students, graduates, and friends sending a lot of money. So I'm able to establish another scholarship, under my late husband's name. But people will ask us, since these 2 kids already graduated, okay, why are you using this money? Actually, this money will have 3 very important usage. The first one, we use this money to get the best students, like a Fulbright, like a USAID. Usually, they did not offer enough money. We use this money, Joyce and I, we bid on it, and we grab some best students among us. The second thing we did, we always invite students to go to a global conference, ASPA. I know Dean always there and host them and cheer with them, talk to them. And with that, students really experience international, this kind of culture conference. The third thing is we use this money, we help some students study with us. Suddenly, something happened in their family. They're not able to pay the tuition. So this year, actually, we spent $97,000 as a scholarship to help our students. I paid 20. You should be very proud. But this money is not from us, actually from our alumni. Today, a lot of them just flew in for this conference, for this big event. For example, Daniel, Jen. Okay, Daniel, would you please stand up? Let people recognize him. Yeah, thank you. Actually, Daniel is the first one, came to me. And then he said, Joanna, I want to donate money every year. So every year, I don't have to push the check always in our office. And we have Julie Chu and Andrew Penn. This couple always help us. And we have Tanya Wu. Tanya Wu is very special. Why I say that? Because she worked in Dallas. You know, the money, the salary is not that high. She found a job after graduate from her internship. You know, she not only sent us a check in these 2 years, we always can get a big check from someone we don't know. And I realized what happened. She said, I refer, you know, something to agency. So real estate agent, you know, just donate her referral money to IPPAM. So I really appreciate. By the end, one person, I really want to mention it, not only intellectually, you know, physically, everything. She's always there. Once I need some help, I say, hey, Jenny, where are you? She's always there for us. So Jenny Lau, would you please come to the podium?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be here, and I love last-minute surprises from Joanna. And it's been 20 years for IPPAM, and I feel it is so important for us to contribute and give back to the school. When I first started with USC about 17 years ago, I didn't know what it means by donation or social responsibilities. And, but I met students from countries where they cannot afford tuition coming into this great city, this great school. And they have been helped by our alumni and people with really kind hearts. So I felt like from that point on, I feel it's important that you not only take from the school, but you give back to the students, to your friends, to the future stars and leaders around the world who needs your help. You know, this money to some of us may not affect your daily life or your quality of life, but it makes huge difference for the ones who really needs it. So, being said that, Joanna was making a really kind introduction of some of our IPPAM alumni making annual donations. And I would like to ask all of you generously to give some money to the school, to the program, and each one of you have this card on your table. It says, come celebrate with us with gratitude for the journey thus far and optimism for what lies ahead. I would like to make the following pledge for IPPAM student scholarships, and you can make annual donation or one-time donation. Just keep in mind, it doesn't matter how much money you give back to the school, to the students who really needs it. It means a lot for the people who really needs the money and move forward. And for those families who aren't that fortunate to have their lives as the same quality standards as we have, but you can make that difference. It can be $20, it can be $100, or even thousands of dollars, or even millions of dollars if you want to buy a jet or save that money and donate to the school. So yeah, so for those of you who's sitting in the back, basically what Joanna is saying, give back to the school and donate. Fight on, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I believe that Dean Knott would like to open to a quick section on Q&A following the speeches that we just had. So I would like to welcome back Dean Knott on the stage, and also our guest speakers.
So I wondered if you had thoughts about how do we go as technology advances in solar panels and batteries and electric cars and so on, and hydrogen cars. How do we navigate that transition to really cheaper, more friendly energy sources?
I would just say that it really does rely on the interdisciplinary approach that all of you exemplify in your work, that by staying in silos, nothing gets done. So you mentioned hydrogen as an example. It's a very promising technology. For those of you that don't know, basically electric cars can run on batteries or hydrogen, but they're still electric cars. And there's a lot of reasons why hydrogen might ultimately be more convenient than many hours of charging, heavy batteries, et cetera. And they're starting to come on the market. But the problem was none of the car manufacturers wanted to bring those cars to market until there were fueling stations, and none of the fueling companies wanted to build stations until they knew there were cars. So when I became EPA secretary, again, cross-disciplinary, I tried to bring together stakeholders. We got 200 stakeholders from business, academia, from the government sector, from NGOs, et cetera, and we worked on all of the issues. So we laid out a program of how would we roll out the cars, on what period of time, so the fueling companies knew what to do, insurance companies knew what to do, local fire marshals knew what to do. We really need to get everyone on the same page. And then the result is today we have 50 hydrogen stations in California. You can drive anywhere in the state on hydrogen, and all the major car companies are now bringing those cars into the marketplace. Now, some of this might have happened anyway, just over time with a good technology, but part of what we're trying to do with climate change is solve it before it's too late. So anything, it's like the example I gave about replacing LED streetlights in Brazil. It would have happened anyway in 10, 20 years, but we want to accelerate this transition as policymakers.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, because Terry's the architect of the hydrogen highway, and so I'm sure I don't have anything to add, because he's awesome and he gave you a great answer.
Okay, great, thank you. You did raise something that I wanted to comment on, and that was Arnold Schwarzenegger and bodybuilding. My wife wants me to lift weights since she's met Arnold. And so we were at a function last year, and he was the speaker. And so she went up to him and she said, "Oh, my husband Jack is starting to work out a couple times a week for a half hour." And Arnold said, "What? He's got to work out every day for 3 hours or 2. So I gave up the ambition to
be a bodybuilder,
even look remotely like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, you could at least adopt the Austrian accent.
Well, that would be easier, actually. Bridgett, I wanted to focus a question on a couple things you said. One is around individual behaviors and being small. We can really make a huge difference by the way we change and the behaviors that we engage in, and you gave one kind of incentive for that, which is charging for bottles. I wonder if there are other incentives that you could discuss, all the way from making it convenient. That's one of the big things for me. If it's not convenient, and most people they may not recycle, right? To actually having it as kind of part of your culture. My little granddaughter in Britain is 4 years old, and when we come over there, we're only there for a week, and we often don't recycle. And she's the one that pointed out, "Grandpa and Grandma, you need to recycle." And so there's something about that education culture that gets built in, like with smoking, where very few of us smoke, whereas when I was growing up, almost everybody did. And so could you say a little more about other incentives besides just the monetary incentive to get us to behave more appropriately for the environment?
Well, there's neighborhood pressure. You're the one person that doesn't take your recycling bin out to the street. I bet you're going to hear from your neighbor. There's a lot of that goes on. But I'm also thinking recently about the whole thing around plastic bags. I mean, there is a little financial incentive there, but suddenly doing the right thing just seems so easy. And when I go to other states, and I often tell my friends, we breathe rare air. In California, you are in a very unique situation. You need to get out into the rest of the country, and you will really start to appreciate, what's going on here. Not only from recycling, but plastic bags, but also just healthy foods and things like that. So I think there's all kinds of interesting incentives. I think it takes all of the above. So one of the reasons of recycling, I didn't go into all this, but one of the reasons it was so impactful is because cities were then required to divert their waste. Because there was a bill that said if you don't start diverting waste, you're going to get charged $1,000 a day. So then all the cities decided to do recycling. And then the recycling money went to cities to help them promote recycling. So it's all of the above when you're thinking about it. And look, you guys are all policymakers, right? You've been studying this a lot longer than I have. You can figure this out. But you have to start with the problem and then go upstream. What is the real problem? Litter. Okay, how do we get litter off the road? here's a really interesting fun fact. We don't recycle distilled spirits. So when I go to the Golden Gate Park on a Sunday morning, I don't see any bottles and cans, but you know what I see? Those big vodka bottles. Nobody wants to pick them up because they're not worth anything. Those guys go around, pick up all the bottles and cans, but they don't pick up that vodka bottle because it's a piece of trash. It doesn't have any value to them. No one's going to give them that nickel. So I think there's a really important lesson in all of this. It goes through lots of different things, but individual behavior is really important. And having those little instances, I love this little nudge theory. My God, the guy won the Pulitzer on it. I mean, you know, it's going to, or the Nobel Prize. It's really interesting. I think you should all read. It's Richard Thaler, T-H-A-L-E-R. Really interesting to have a discussion about that little nudge. What's the one little thing that you could get people to do that would sort of get that, you know, that container out to that curb?
You know, I do think that it is a range of things, from education to convenience to the kind of financial incentives and the peer pressure, because we have had significant social change in some areas through those kinds of behaviors. The other thing that you said that I'd like to have you also say a few additional words on is this idea of maybe social enterprise or starting something up that could make a difference. We have a graduate who started a company, a recycling company, and she hires ex-offenders, people who've been in prison or in jail, and gives them kind of a second chance. And that's how she kind of got started. And so she combined that kind of social good with also recycling. And do you have any advice for us here if we wanted to do something like this, or some of our students wanted to start up a social enterprise of some kind, either a nonprofit? Or...
Yeah, I think there's lots of opportunity out there, and it's so much easier now. I mean, you can start your own website for $100, you know, and get your friends involved, and then there's all kinds of funding going on right now. A lot of the family foundations now have social impact funds, and it's not just about reaching out and get their own nonprofits up and going, but it's also about helping other nonprofits go. But I think also this question could be to Terry as well, because you've been working so much with the venture capital firms and things like that, Terry. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, the only thing I would add to that, Bridget, is that, you know, it takes a village, and you've discovered that too with Passport to Good, that none of us know exactly how to do all of these things, especially in the new world of social media and how do you reach people. It's not like it was 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. So my advice would just be make a lot of friends, get a lot of people engaged in what you're trying to accomplish, because you're going to need a lot of oars in the water to do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess this is a little more directed at Terry than Bridget, but you mentioned the Paris Climate Accord. The Paris Climate Accord is really a collective action. It's difficult to achieve because the individual incentives of countries is not behave that way. They have to give up something in order to do it, and so I'd like to ask about that. Is how do we achieve? What are some of the best strategies for achieving collective action like that? You know, one is through the market. You know, we've talked about cap and trade, or through regulation, possibly through tax policy. Could you say a little bit of the kind of strategies like that that help us overcome that collective action, since global warming, certainly in the environment, is something that is broader than any one of us, and it requires us to cooperate in order to make it work?
Well, two things on that. One, going back even to your point about what motivates people to do things, we found at the end of the Schwarzenegger administration, there was a ballot measure put up by oil companies to try to overturn our Global Warming Solutions Act. And governors of both Democrats and Republicans in the past, all kinds of people came together to fight that ballot measure. And we were doing public polling, and we were losing right up until the last month before the election. And then the American Lung Association came out, and they did a couple of ads which said that if this measure passes, your kids are going to get asthma, you're going to get sick, your air quality will get dirtier. And suddenly it flipped, and we won 70% to 30%. So you got to put these things in language and in the common interest that people can respond to, so they understand why they should pay attention to it or prioritize it in their daily needs. And I think that gets to the climate change discussion, is that what a lot of people don't yet understand is that the Paris Agreement is the biggest business plan on a global scale ever promulgated on Earth, because 194 countries all made commitments to reduce their greenhouse gases, and they are now laying out, or mostly have laid out, how they're going to achieve those things. So if you, for example, are in the wind turbine business and you're selling, wind machines to capture energy that way, or solar, or whatever it might be, you can look at those business plans, those mandates from every one of those countries, and now you know exactly which country to go to, where they're going to be putting incentives in place, where they're going to be driving requirements like Bridgett mentioned about, land use bans or whatever, or landfill bans or whatever it might be. And now you know exactly where to go to sell your product. This has never happened before on a global scale. This is nothing but opportunity. And so I think the smart business people, policy leaders, academics, others who go study those individual commitments by those countries and then see the opportunity will have an enormous business opportunity, and that will harness the markets to move forward.
Mm-hmm. That it's sort of a related issue with that is, the argument against the kind of climate change policies that we've been pursuing, and the president makes these kind of arguments, is that it hurts jobs, it destroys old industries, et cetera. And one of the remarkable things about California is that aren't we, I don't know what the exact percentage is, 35% renewable energy overall, something like that, which is the highest in the country. And if the rest of the country looked like us, it would be a dramatic change. Yet, California now is the 6th largest economy in the world, creates more companies than any other state in the union, and also has done better in terms of employment than any other state in the union over this period of time. So that, I suppose, is also a testament to the fact that it's not one or the other, but you can benefit from both.
Well, absolutely. And that meeting that I mentioned with President-elect Trump at the time, we explained to him that exactly that point, that there's huge economic opportunity here, and that, for example, it wasn't regulation that killed the coal industry in this country. In fact, the biggest decline in coal jobs occurred under Presidents Reagan and Bush. It happened because of automation. And then, obviously, more recently, it happened because of the switch to natural gas, which is cheaper and cleaner. So it was purely market-based forces that did it, not regulation.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point also about automation. That underlies a lot of these changes that are occurring. I grew up in the state of Michigan in the United States. They have almost the same car production as they did when I was a kid, but about 40% fewer workers. So it's affected many industries.
Thank you again, Dean, Ms. Luther, and Mr. Tamminen. Now I would like to introduce IPPAM's business manager, Anne Abrahamyan, to join us on the stage. Thank you.
Dear students, beloved alumni, program friends, colleagues, distinguished faculty, guests, Dean Knott, keynote speakers. Thank you very much for being here today with us to celebrate the program's 20th anniversary. Without you doing your best in what you do, it would have been impossible for us to be here today. We owe you. We owe you, alumni, for being successful, for coming back, because you define us. Thank you. IPPAM has been blessed with some of the most amazing people. Again, thank you for being part in this journey. About 2 weeks ago, we started to get gifts to celebrate the IPPAM anniversary, birthday gifts, gift certificates, gift baskets, and to be honest with you, we didn't know what to do with it. And during our meeting, Joanna mentioned, let's raffle it. And first I was opposite. This is just big celebration, and raffling the gifts, probably it's not appropriate. And then we said, why not? We have so many gifts, and then we started to wrap our gifts too. So you have some raffle prizes also from IPPAM, because IPPAM program is for loving, for sharing, learning, smiling, caring, forgiving, laughing, hugging, wondering, healing, and even more, loving. I like to say a few things from my heart, because I have been here since 1999, since the inception of the program. I was just an immigrant, like our students, and I needed so much encouragement from the program. The program was good. Don't get me wrong, Joyce, Joanna, Dr. Melnick, you were great. But what gave me the greatest encouragement are Indonesian students. So thank you. Thank you very much for coming to my office, for sharing your hopes, your inspirations, your problems, and just together we tried to solve it. You gave me so much encouragement. I thought, oh, I'm important here. This program needs me. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I know we are short for time, but I also like to say thank you to my colleagues, to Joyce, Joanna, to Reem, to all the professors, to Gela, who we see very often, to Professor Zerunian. I can't really name everybody, to Professor Murdoch, for giving your heart and soul, because without you, we couldn't do it. Thank you, Susan Sinclair. And this type of program doesn't happen overnight. It requires constant care, constant attention. And I also like to say thank you to all the vendors, to all the university units who help us to be here today. Thank you, Melissa Azarkan, for approving our expenses. Thank you, Jane, for taking my calls. Jane Galoyan is the manager at Radisson, and I call her constantly. Even on the weekends, because we have guests internationally and they need to be housed, and she's always there for us. Thank you, Sergio, and thank you, everybody. At the end, I like to introduce you to a program, long-time friend, Mary Sue. She is the mayor of City of Walnut. Thank you, and please come to the stage.
Well, good afternoon. It's my great honor here today to see so many wonderful people, the speakers. Yes, in order to preserve and continue to keep our quality life, we have to protect our environment. I 100% agree with the speakers, and it really my joy and great honor every year, once in a while, that your international delegation from China, they are able to visit Walnut, and we were able to share some of local policy, state, federal government's a little bit policy with Chinese government. And for the last few years, I want to thank Dr. Joanna, Joyce, and to help me to understand USC better. You know what? My husband from Indonesia also. And I used to think that all my nephew and niece, they are all United spoiled kids, because they came here to spend money, and they are maybe like cousin. Over 20 of them came here 20 years ago. They came to school to USC, and they graduated from USC. And now USC is one of the best schools in the whole world. So let's give USC a round of applause. Yes, and I think actually our federal government, Ed Roy's office, Congressman Ed Roy's, actually he would like to join us today, but he is very busy. So he sent one of his chief staff, standing full to present a special recognition for your 20 years anniversary. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Mary Sue said, my name is Stephanie, and it's truly a pleasure to be here today on behalf of Congressman Ed Royce, who chairs the Foreign Affairs Committee. So we want to thank you for all your efforts, and we're glad to hear that the program is thriving because it's ever more important today. I'm also proud to say that the chairman is a co-founder of the International Conservation Caucus. So thank you so much for all that you have talked about today. It's very important. So without further ado, on behalf of Congressman Royce, as a token of our appreciation, we just want to present you with a certificate.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and thank you for coming to support our program. We very much appreciate it.